Enough of that.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Karina. I am the ISA for Core Group Real Estate, and I am here with Justin, our broker and owner. Woo.
Hello, hello.
So,
It's good to be here. We got new toys, new
uh,
sounds today.
yes.
So
And
sorry if I
today we're
abused
going
them.
to abuse them all the way. Today we're going to be talking about um, today we're going to be talking about making offers in this market. We've seen previously in the past months that it's been super competitive. Everybody's asking 50,000 over, 100,000 over. It's been crazy, but now the market's slowed down a little. So, have you seen a change in the offers that have been being made? Are people asking under now? What's going on?
Yeah, 100%. There's, I think the best way to explain it is we were on this trajectory. So last year, middle of the year, if you overpriced a house, the market eventually, as long as you weren't too far out of reach, would eventually catch up. Or buyers were offering ahead of where the market was at that time. And so what's happened is that has certainly slowed down a little bit. Interest rates have changed things. There's a few more homes coming on the market available. And so homes that are now trying to price 2 or 3 months ahead are realizing, hey, it's not going to catch us very fast because our trajectory is now significantly lower than it was this time last year. So we're seeing a lot of the news cycle talk about price reductions and these things. I think the big takeaway there is homes are being not infrequently overpriced, or they had a price in mind that they thought they could get to, and now they're realizing, hey, reality is kicking in. We're not getting the activity. People aren't coming in as hot. There's more competition with us. And so certainly a buyer coming in with a strong offer that is reasonable and in line with the market has to be considered because, sellers, you might have a big idea, a big dream of what you might get, but when reality hits and nobody's interested at that price,
Right.
you kind of start looking, okay, what's the real reality here that we got to consider?
Mm-hmm. So buyers a few months ago, going back, they were over asking. They were doing short closings. I know inspection periods were about probably like 3 to 5 days. Are you still seeing that, or has it gone a little more towards a buyer's market, or are we still in that seller's market?
There's little micro markets. So I was assessing for a home in downtown Orlando yesterday, and we just did a micro, market assessment. And in that micro market, homes that compared to that, there was about 6 months of inventory, which is a big deal because last year we had about 1 to 2 months of inventory at any given time at the most. And so we are seeing areas open up where there's more competition, there's more inventory. Doesn't mean things are really taking 6 months to sell necessarily, but we're seeing based on the absorption rate, how fast homes generally do sell, that there's more inventory, more choices there for buyers right now. And sellers have to view that as competition if they're being advised correctly. I mean, there is more competition with your listing now than there has been in a long time.
Right. So how do you, as a realtor broker, still make the offer competitive, but also strong to the seller? No, sorry, competitive to the seller, but also, protecting your buyer's interests.
Yeah, so I think for buyers or for sellers, understanding what your home's worth is a big deal. And so as a buyer, you have to understand that every seller probably, has a reason they're moving. And so they're trying to get from point A to point B. Yes, the more money you can get helps, but at the end of the day, a strong offer that's going to get to closing should be more impactful. I do see sellers every once in a while that are like, hey, if I can get this price, I'll go market and I'll figure out what I'm going to do later. That's not most people. Most people are moving for a reason. They need more house. Their job moved. they want more land, right? Whatever the reason is, that's their goal. So if we can help them meet their objective, they're going to sell.
Right.
And so I think doing a true value estimate of what the home is really worth based on recent sales is the first step for anybody, whether you're a buyer or a seller. I had a conversation with a potential seller today, and really the number that their neighborhood suggests their home should sell for does not make them happy. Right? They've got a number in mind that's about 50,000 more than that. The conversation we had was, hey, there's nothing to say we can't get that. There are a couple comps we can look at that may give us some upside here. But before we go there, I think it's important for us to understand where the market is, right? Now, because that kind of there's a stake in the ground. If there's something we can do to help market, to help drive more activity, if there's features of the home, that are going to be more desirable for somebody to pay more than that, kind of average number, that's great. But first, we've got to come to clarity on what it's really, worth, what an appraiser is going to land on, and what other buyers are seeing when they look around and say, hey, what else has sold? I think the same thing is true for buyers. Before you start saying, hey, I'll pay full price, or I'll pay 50,000 less than full price, right? Those are just, that has to be based on something. So let's first understand what it's worth, and then let's negotiate based on that, right? Because if I pay what it's worth, it may be 50,000 under or 50,000 over. And this is true in every market. Listing price is sometimes high and it's sometimes low. And generally the market understands that, right? If there's a bunch of buyers looking at homes in that area and something comes in way underpriced, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be bid up. If it's way overpriced, but it's a really nice house and people like the features it has, they're going to still come see it and write offers, but it's going to be under. I think coming at it with an old school mindset, because these aren't commodities. These have a lot of moving parts that create value. Just the difference of a home with a pool, the exact same home next door without a pool, there's a value differential there. And it has nothing to do with the price per square foot, right? Because that's not under air. It drives the ultimate sale price. And I think having these conversations with our buyers and sellers is really important. Having somebody on your team that you trust that can speak clearly, hey, here's where I believe based on all these factors the value is. Now let's come and create a strategy for how we're going to negotiate. I think that's the really always going to be a winning strategy.
What are some negotiation tips that you have for agents or for buyers or sellers?
I think information is power. So exactly what we talked about is understanding what it's worth is a good start, because, and then not only understanding what it's worth, but understanding what it's worth to you. And these two things are not always true. And I think this is a misunderstanding by a lot of people. So an example would be, let's just say you were dead set on having a pool. And let's go back to the example. We've got 3,000 square foot home without a pool and a 3,000 square foot home with a pool. And we can come to a clear value that, these homes, not accounting for the pool, are worth about, $500,000. Okay. An appraiser is going to give about $25,000 to a pool at the most. So we're really talking 500 and 525. Now, if you have to have a pool and you're saying, hey, my kids aren't going another summer without a pool, we're getting a pool. So we got two options. We buy the one without the pool for 500, and then we go put in a pool. Well, what's it going to take to put in a pool? It's going to take $80,000 in 8 months, right? So fantastic. It's going to be a lovely, there's been a waiting list for pools for a long time. So, or maybe I've got to pay a little more than I think this one will appraise for. This one will appraise for 525 because it's 500, right? These are made up numbers a little bit, but this is true in reality. Yeah. If I pay 550, was that a good decision for me to make? And I think almost everybody would look at that scenario and say, yeah, that was a good decision, because guess what? You were able to finance most of that versus you bought the $500,000 home, and then you had to come up with $80,000 to put in for the pool. And it took you 8 months of dirt in your backyard and people in and out and dealing with contractors and permits and all the other things that go along with that. So, sometimes we just got to step back and say, hey, it's not rocket science. What is it worth to me? How can I get the deal done? What is it I need? And let's go find something that we can really, rally around.
Right.
And then negotiating to that is critical. The one who has the most information generally will hold the power. Why does the seller want to move? Those are interesting things to understand. Why does the buyer want to buy this house? What is the time frames that are important to everybody, right? So maybe I'm good on that price, but I really need to be here until October, and we're sitting here in the end of July. Okay, how can we bridge these gaps? The other thing I would say is, and I have to have conversations with buyers about this all the time, don't wear out your welcome with a negotiation.
Right.
And what I mean is, every negotiation may or may not be your last negotiation in that deal. So if I am convinced that I'm not paying a dime over $515 for that house with a pool, and that's just my number, and and I keep coming back, and every week, and they say no, and I come back, I'm like, what about this week? Still unsold, $515. Guess what that seller is going to eventually do? We may come to a deal, but they're going to be so sick of me before it's all said and done. They're going to be, I really don't want to work with this person. And I've had that happen so many times where somebody on the other side has worn out their welcome with our customer, to where our customer's like, that's the right house for me, but I just out of principle, I don't want to work with that person,
Don't want
so
that.
when you wear out your welcome and then you go to inspections and then you need a repair, you have to request something, right? The roof's got an issue. You're less likely to be able to get that part of the deal done. And then you go to appraisal, and appraisal comes in low, and they're going to be like, listen, I'm not giving any more. And so you've got to pick your battles. It's important to think long-term in these things. We still can have small victories while finding points of compromise. And I think that's just important to know, is just keep the whole thing in perspective. Because letting a couple small maintenance items go during an inspection period and not hammering down on somebody. Now, what I like to do is I like to let them know I'm letting stuff go. So, hey, here's some things that came up during inspections. Me and the buyer have, we've chatted about it, and we really don't want to make a big deal of these things. So we'll handle those after, right? That's different than saying, yep, inspections are good. Because guess what? Now you get to a next negotiation, the seller is going to say, well, my house was perfect. Everything passed inspection. And that's never true. Nothing completely passes inspection. Yeah. You might have passed the buyer's, point of view. So I like to make sure when we're passing by, areas of concern, that we're saying, hey, we've handled it. We're easy to work with. We don't want to make a big deal of this. We want to keep the train on the tracks, and make sure we're making those points of communication with the other party, because just those conversations are important along the way.
Yeah, that's smart. Saying like, hey, we're gonna fix these on our own, but if you can just fix this one thing, that'd be awesome, and then it doesn't look as bad, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Don't magnify issues so much.
Yeah.
Make yourself seem easy to work with, and there is a persona there you want to have, in these things, because you want people to view you as easy to work with. I had a negotiation this weekend. Well, actually, it should have been a done deal on Friday. It didn't become a done deal until Monday evening while I'm eating dinner. I finally got the contract back. And the buyer was beside themselves, because why wouldn't they respond? Why do they keep kicking the can down the road? They keep saying, yeah, we're getting it, and then they don't. Mm-hmm. They keep saying, yeah, we're talking about this, and then I'm sending for signatures, and then nothing ever comes. It's like, you start to lose trust in the process that what you're telling me is not truthful. And you have the freedom to do with that, what you will, and handle your things accordingly. But there very likely could have come a point in that transaction where the buyer said, listen, I love this place, but I I don't want to see these people. I don't want to work with them anymore. I don't trust what they're doing, right? As soon as you lose trust, it's hard to have any further negotiations.
Right. Makes sense.
So the other thing I would say, and maybe it's a good point to end on, is in this market looking for opportunity. And so I always like to look for opportunity. Here's what I'll say to anybody who's watching this, thinking about buying. My bet, I don't have a crystal ball, but my bet is that our market does not tank. This is not we're not going to hit a cliff and fall in value. Why do I say that? Because mortgage requirements and credit availability have been very strict since 2012, 2013. So people are well qualified that have been buying. They've been putting down a significant amount of money across the board. There's far less FHA, no money down, very little down type loans that we've been dealing with. And I think the statistics would show the same. So people are putting 20, 30, 50% down because they're selling their homes. They're getting a lot of equity. They're transitioning into a new home. We've sent a ton of cash into our market. So all I'm saying is, and I actually have a report somewhere around here. This was out of the New Smyrna market, which is a secondary home market. There's zero short sales, zero foreclosures, zero distressed sales that has been on the market this summer in that market. That's a secondary home market. So, and I always like watching the secondary home markets because that's where people will bail first. They're not going to let bail on their primary. They'll bail on their secondary homes. So I think we're slowing down. We're going to have a little bit of a stagnant market here for a little while, a little bit of a plateau. Projections are saying we're moving to a 3 to 7, depending on who you're following, kind of appreciation rate annually. However, that doesn't mean everyone believes that. And I think a lot of sellers right now believe that, hey, things have been too hot. They've got to change. And so when a seller's hitting the market, they're trying to get their money out. When they're on the market for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they're not selling, the reality is they're probably just overpriced. Their mindset is maybe I've missed the boat. I got to take what I can get. Now, it gives you an opportunity to negotiate. We hadn't had this for a long time. So now there's an opportunity to jump in there. And I would say the month of August and September will certainly be this way, where there's going to be a slowdown in new buyer activity. So if you're a buyer, don't take a break, push in and look for something. There's inventory there. Less buyers are engaged in this market in August every year. Most sellers probably aren't understanding of that. They're just saying, hey, how come no one's looking at my house? And so that's the opportunity to come in, jump on it, negotiate before they get with their agent and do a major price reduction. Because guess what happens when they price reduce and make the price right? It's going to be very valuable again to the market.
Yep.
So beat them to the punch. Don't shy away from writing reasonable offers. If you can justify it, it's always my mindset. If I can justify it, I'll submit it. And so we want to be able to make sure we can back up when I'm submitting a really low offer for you, that I can say, hey, here's how we got there. And I'm not ashamed to present this offer because, it is in line with what the market is saying it should be. So push in. This is the right time to be doing it.
Yep. Got to buy next 2 months.
Yep.
Well, thank
Perfect.
you, Justin. I appreciate all your knowledge.
You got it.
Till next time.